from. I am Dr. Najwa Ibrahim. I'm the director of the Global Healthcare Activities Academy. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to the educational events that we are making. Actually, we started since 2016, and we provide education in different specialties in healthcare. For example, research, oncology, pharmacoeconomic, diabetes, different specialties. And also, we have our own peer-reviewed journal, the Global Journal of Medical Therapeutics. And we invite you to participate with us in the journal. Thanks for being with us today. It's my pleasure to introduce our moderator today. Our educational series is under the category of research, and we are going to talk about qualitative evidence synthesis. So our moderator, it's my pleasure to introduce him, Dr. Muhammad Ahmed Sulaiman. He is from Department of Clinical Pharmacy in Kaduna State University in Nigeria. Please join me to welcome Dr. Muhammad Ahmed. The floor is yours, Dr. Muhammad.
Thank you, Prof. Hello there. Welcome to Global Healthcare Activities Monthly Webinar. Today, we are going to be looking at qualitative evidence synthesis from Dr. Fatima Awal Idris. She is a lecturer at Ahmed Bello University, Zaria, Department of Clinical Pharmacy and Pharmacy Practice. She is also a student, PhD student from Center for Pharmaceutical Medicine Research, King's College, London. She's a member of Pharmacy Scholars Initiative, a like-minded group that publish a lot of papers and organize webinar for healthcare professionals. The floor will be open for Dr. Fatima to be presenting on this topic. Thank you all for coming. Dr. Fatima, please, can you go ahead and start?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. As he said, my name is Fatima Idris Awal. I'm going to talk about qualitative evidence synthesis. But I'd like to say that I'm not an expert in this field. Like, I'm a student, a first-year PhD student, but I'll discuss everything I've known so far through the journey. So qualitative evidence synthesis is just like a systematic review, a meta-analysis that we know. But systematic review and meta-analysis is for studies that use quantitative research methods, while qualitative evidence synthesis is for studies that use qualitative research methods of data collection. So the outline of my presentation would be through overview of review, the types, how to search for articles, what to use, and then how to write the report. So a literature review or a systematic review or whatever type of review is a review that answers a question. It is expected that at the end of the review, when you read a report of any review, a systematic review or qualitative evidence synthesis, you'll be able to make an informed judgment, like you can decide because you know that it has gone through a rigorous state to produce the evidence. So that is why the evidence synthesis method is used to inform policy, like the WHO always uses evidence from systematic reviews and meta-analysis and qualitative evidence synthesis to inform policy or decide on whether to do something or not to do it. So we have some elements of a review. First, you need to define your question. So every review has a defined question. You need to select what to include and what to exclude. So a review has an inclusion and exclusion criteria. It has a search concept. You need some databases to do the search, and you need to extract the data, assess the quality of the data, then synthesize the information you want, and then report your findings. This is like the same part for all types of reviews, regardless of whether it is a quantitative or a qualitative review. So both systematic review with meta-analysis, systematic reviews without meta-analysis, and qualitative evidence synthesis, and all other types of reviews have to go through this part in order to have the final report. So types of reviews, we have the narrative literature review, which is just a narration. It doesn't have to follow the systematic path to give the final answer. Then the scoping review, which is like a broader type of review. It gives you every information about the particular area. Then annotated bibliography is just like extracting information about author, year of publication, key information, having like a table with what you expect to get out of a review. Then systematic reviews, which are divided into mixed method reviews, systematic review with meta-analysis, without meta-analysis, then qualitative evidence synthesis, which is basically systematic review with interpretation or thematic analysis, and then reviews to develop theories. They all fall under qualitative evidence synthesis. So for most reviews, there has to be a framework to search for literature. So basically, systematic reviews with meta-analysis mostly use the PICO. P for population, I for intervention, C for comparator or control, and O for outcome. So they use this to define their search concepts, to know the terms they would prompt into the databases and get results. But these frameworks are not, they are just supposed to guide you. They are not prescriptive, because some studies do not follow this particular framework. Then there is the SPIDER and the SPICE, which mostly qualitative and mixed method research use. And these also are not like, you don't have to follow them. They are just guide. And if you have a study that does not follow this framework, it doesn't mean that the study is not a valid one. This is just supposed to guide you, to guide your search. So this, whenever you have your search terms, you have to have some filters, because you don't want to study everything. Your study is supposed to be guided and it's supposed to be direct. So you need to inclusion and exclusion criteria. You have to define what you want to include and what you want to exclude, because obviously you cannot study everything. So you need to exclude to make your study achievable. Some studies use language restriction. Majority of studies would say all studies that are not reported in English would be excluded. This is because the cost of transcribing or translating studies is expensive. And then you are afraid to use maybe Google Translator, because you may misinterpret the findings of the study. So you have to make considerations, even though ideally you should include every study that talks about your subject area, regardless of the language barrier. But this is supposed to be a limitation, because not everyone can afford the cost of translation, and then you have different reasons not to include studies you don't understand. Then study design. For qualitative studies, the design would be that the study data collection follows a qualitative research method. And for others, you define it. If you are to do a qualitative study, just like in qualitative evidence synthesis, then you'd say you'd only include studies that use qualitative methods of data collection to perform your qualitative evidence synthesis. Time frame. During your search, some people would make the search from the inception, while others would define a time for which they need the information, say between 2000 to 2020. For why you chose a particular timeline. For instance, in my study, I chose to include only articles from 2012 because I was looking at current models of patient engagement. And so I decided that a decade old of articles should be enough to give you a current, what current it should like be valid for current. So if you want to use time frame, you have to give reason for why you are using a time frame. So these are the common databases for health-related searches: the Embase, the PubMed, CINAHL, Web of Science, and then Google and Google Scholar. This is where you can get articles to use in your reviews or qualitative evidence synthesis. So apart from checking the databases to extract your articles for inclusion into qualitative evidence synthesis, you could also use citation tracking. By seeing the number of articles that have cited a particular article, you can try to check the article to see if it's important for you or if it meets your eligibility criteria for inclusion. You can check reference list of the included articles. That's the articles that have qualified to be included, they're eligible. You check through the reference list to see if there is something you've missed out, and then you subject whatever you get through the same procedures as you did for other articles. You can hand search, you can check books, organization websites, gray literature. So this is the probe that is usually given to the database in order to extract the articles you want, because the database is a pool, is a repository for everything. So you have to define what you want it to bring out. So usually you use the terms and if you want it to combine something for you, you use, or if you want it to choose either this or this, you to exclude the terms you don't, asterisks to bring out every possible word that has the same alphabet. For instance, if you put cent and an asterisk in front of it, it will bring out center, centered, centric, centricity, and every word that is similar to cent. So after you've gotten your articles from the database, the next thing is to screen the articles. First, you import the articles. For majority of people, they will import it to EndNote, where they can check duplicates because you're using different databases, and most likely an article can be in different databases, the same article in different databases. So you need to screen that. You remove the duplicates, and then you can use Ryan or Covidence to screen your title and abstract. I had that Covidence, even you can import full text articles there, but I used Ryan to screen the title and abstract, and you cannot import the full text because it's a free software. So Covidence is a paid one, so it has more advantages than Ryan.ai. So qualitative evidence synthesis proper. Like I said earlier, qualitative evidence is also a systematic review, but it brings together our primary researches that use primary qualitative research. So these are some examples of qualitative research that qualify to be included in qualitative evidence synthesis. You can include interviews, whether it's one-on-one interview, in person or online, whether it's a focus group discussion. You can include grounded theories, where usually grounded theories when you have a hypothesis that you test, and at the end you intend to develop a theory. You can include phenomenology, which is a study of a phenomenon. Usually in a medical field, it's mostly when you try to assess people's experience of a particular phenomenon. You know, we can experience the same phenomenon in a different way because we have different circumstances and different ways of understanding things. So for instance, if you want to assess the experience of a patient with diabetes, you may have different people with diabetes, same diabetes having different experience about the disease. So you can do that. Then ethnography is study of cultures, case study, conversation analysis, even observations, documentary analysis, blog posts, online posts, they all fall under documentary analysis, and mixed method studies. These are studies that can be included in qualitative evidence synthesis. So some of the methods used in qualitative evidence synthesis include meta-ethnography, meta-aggregation, thematic analysis, framework synthesis, mega-ethnography. Okay, mega is aggregation of meta. So it's like broader than meta-ethnography, narrative synthesis, and rapid qualitative evidence synthesis. These are all subtypes of qualitative evidence synthesis because they are all analysis of primary qualitative researches. So the major aim of a qualitative evidence synthesis is to assess methodological limitation. And for you to do that, you need to have clear aims, clear questions. You need to have, there must be between your aim and design. This means that your research design must answer your research question. There should be rigor in the selection of participants. Your recruitment should be ideal and should be in such a way that it would answer the question you want to answer. And then you should use appropriate methods in explaining your findings. So these are some checklists or some formats that you could use to synthesize qualitative data. You can use the PRISMA checklist. There's a Cochrane review guide. And then there is the NTREC, which is enhancing transparency in reporting the synthesis of qualitative research. So you can use all this. They have a checklist, a guide that you can use for information you need in primary studies, what you need to extract to give you like rigorous or sufficient data that you could use for your qualitative evidence synthesis. So this is an example of the Cochrane checklist. It has these are the information that is expected for you to extract from the primary research. You need to take the authors, the year and location of publication. You need to extract information about the population that was studied. You need to extract information about the context of study, the recruitment, the data collection, the data analysis, and then for the findings of the study, you need to collect data on quotes, on authors' interpretation, if there are themes and sub-themes, the theories and observational experts. These are the findings of the primary researches that you need to collect in order to perform a qualitative evidence synthesis. So when you have your articles ready, you have the full text after subjecting them to all your eligibility checks, eligible, and you now have your final articles for inclusion into a qualitative evidence synthesis. The next thing you're supposed to do is to critically appraise the article to assess the risk of bias. And the recommended tool is the Critical Appraisal Skills Program tool, CASP. This is the tool that is mostly recommended by Cochrane. And it has 10 questions. The question would ask you to choose whether there are a set of questions that have the options of yes, no, and I don't know. So for instance, if they say, does the study have a clear research question? You take whether they state in the article the clear research question, the aim of the study. It would ask whether the method, it was suitable for qualitative study. Then you take whether the recruitment was appropriate. You take whether it's yes, no, or I don't know. So it asks everything from the research question up till the results and discussion to ask whether the results are findings and they could help improve or make assertion or final judgment. And then there is the Joanna Briggs Institute tool. It also has a tool, is similar to the CASP. It also has a set of questions that you are supposed to take, whether the study had or had not met what those questions asked. Then there is the mixed methods appraisal tool. This is at the point of collecting data from the primary research. Then when you have all the data and you've analyzed the data, there's another critical appraisal that is expected for qualitative evidence synthesis. It is called the Great Circle. It is to confirm the evidence of like the final results you have, the rigor and the quality of your final report. So you're supposed to subject it to this Great Circle test. It also has a set of questions, and then it will tell you whether you have high, low, or medium confidence in your work. So for the data analysis, we have different softwares. mostly subscription-based softwares to analyze qualitative data. There's the Maxter, NVivo. NVivo is, I think, the most common one. Well, at least that's the only one I know. Deduce, Parker's, Atlas, TI, and many others. These are some of my references, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Fatima. Thank you for this nice presentation. The panel for question and answer is open. Please, if you have any question, you can send it through the chat box or the question and answer box. Yes, before the questions come, let me just ask you this question. If I want to differentiate between the normal meta-analysis and the qualitative evidence synthesis, what's the cardinal difference between these two?
For the meta-analysis, usually, they have a power, like they do some forest plots and all, and because it's number, you would clearly see that this is the findings. You would be able to judge because there is level of significance, there is power of study, and there is everything. But we know that from the start, qualitative studies are usually subjective because it's based on what the individual experience tells you. And it's not quantified by number. So I don't know how you'd say, that's the basic difference. Qualitative studies are usually subjective most times, and they give you a broader picture that a quantitative is richer. If you want to understand experience, then qualitative study is better. But if you just want to know what is, then you go for the meta-analysis and get your value in number.
Okay, thank you. There is another question from Dr. Basira Lawal Kankia. She said, thank you, Dr. Fatima. Can we combine studies using different methods in the qualitative evidence synthesis? That's the first question.
Okay.
And the second question, or she's trying to elaborate. For example, one study uses interview while the other uses focus group discussion. So how do you combine this using different methods?
You can combine studies that use different methods of qualitative studies because both interviews and focus group discussions are qualitative studies. So it's easy to include them into a qualitative evidence synthesis. Yes, you can do that.
Okay. So let's look through. So while we wait for others to ask their question, I also would like to know, can you find a research gap using the qualitative evidence synthesis?
Of course, yes. There are times when you would conduct a systematic review and you would still be able, I don't know, depending on the quality of your primary researches, you still will not be able to, you'd have the answer, but you probably want more answer. So it means, yes, you can identify a gap because there are study limitations, and there are some things that the primary studies have not covered, so you cannot really say. You have to say that this is the limitation. Or if you question the quality, you have like low confidence in the studies, and probably during your critical appraisal, you saw that they have like low scores. So it means the quality of the articles are not good. You'd question the quality of your research, and then you'd want to do something more rigorous to answer your question. Yes, you can still identify gaps in qualitative evidence synthesis.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, while we still wait for our participants to ask questions. All right. Okay, so we're still waiting for the participant to ask questions. Okay. I think we don't have any question on the Q&A box, in the chat box.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Fatima, for the nice presentation, and Dr. Muhammad Ahmed for the nice moderating and discussion. And thanks for all the attendees for being with us today. Really, this webinar was informative. So before we conclude, I would like to invite you, actually, in the global healthcare activities, we have a symposium which is the fourth global pharmaceutical, medical, and healthcare research symposium that will be conducted on 8 and 9 June in Romania, Cluj-Napoca, and it will be hybrid. That means if you are not able to attend, you can participate virtually through Zoom, or you are most welcome to attend physically. For more details, you can visit our social media like LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. It has all the information about the abstract submission. We encourage all of you to submit abstracts with us. It would be great to share your experience in research internationally. So waiting for your participation. Thanks again for being with us today, and looking forward to see you all in the next webinar, and also in the other activities like symposiums and workshops. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Thank you.